Welcome to Rejected Religion Patreon Tier 2, The Groves of Orpheus. I'm Stephanie Shea, and my guest this month is Safa Mirror. Welcome, Safa.
Salam, everyone. Glad to be here.
It's such a pleasure to be able to talk with you today and to finally meet you. You've kindly accepted my invitation to talk about your work with tarot. This is an area that I personally find fascinating. But before we get into that more deeply, I was hoping that we could start first with a little bit about yourself. If you could tell me a little bit about your background and your research and your work, and then we can take it from there.
ابتدا سازم به نام آن خدا کوست بخشاینده و صاحب عطا. Begin shall I in the name of the one who is benevolent and benign. Thank you for having me in this beautiful podcast. My name is Safa Mirror. I was born and raised in Iran, and my background was in engineering and then cinema and theater, performance art in general. And in 2018, I moved to Netherlands to study contemporary theater, dramaturgy, and dance at Utrecht University. And after graduation, it's been a long journey of me trying to make it as an artist in the Netherlands. But fate brought me into the path of tarot and esotericism in general. And from the first time that I held a tarot deck, which was a Hobbit tarot, when I bought in 2018 in Utrecht, I felt like Sweeney Todd when he said, "At last, my arm is complete again." That's how the tarot felt for me.
Okay.
It was the peak of what I could do with dancing with people's emotions and their ideas, and in general, tell the story of their lives using the cards. Pitch them a movie of who they are and what they're going to do. And after 1 year of researching tarot and learning tarot on my own, I felt this is necessary. This is important. I can't take this lightly. And that's when I bought Thoth Tarot, made by Aleister Crowley and Frida Lady Harris, because I found it to be the most advanced system and the most complicated system of tarot. And I thought if I learned this one and understand how it functions, then every other deck would be easy. And I spent the last 6 years focusing on that deck. And thankfully, as Peter Forshaw has said and always says, I have become a Thoth Tarot master. And I actually get this official title after seeing the paintings at Warburg Institute. I gave this title to myself, but only because that's how Crowley rolls. You have to be a megalomaniac if you want to be scholar of Crowley in a certain way. And that has been my work and business for the past 2 years, professional tarot readings and also research into esotericism, which brings me to my other side of my practice, which is Sufism and translating the Sufi Farsi poetry of Rumi, Hafez, Sa'di, Nasimi, and developing a performative way of translating. It's not just writing. And I should add that tarot was really influential in understanding this poetry and finding a way to translate it as well, because the Sufi poetry, as we will talk later about, is a symbolic, allegorical poetry, which is trying to convey some esoteric message and knowledge and experience through that symbolism, which is also what the tarot does. And through the work that I did with tarot, I could translate the poetry in the same way as well. And this is the two studies that I am trying to combine in my practice and in my research.
This sounds absolutely wonderful. And I personally don't know of anybody who's doing anything like this, of anyone else that's doing anything like this other than yourself. Do you know of anybody who's also kind of doing the same thing?
Actually, there is this tarot called Rumi Tarot by Nigel Jackson.
Okay.
And it is the best tarot on Sufism that I've seen. There are a couple of Sufi tarots or Sufi oracles, not good. And also, coincidentally, it's one of the best translations of Rumi that I have seen as well. His work is really beautiful. Unfortunately, the deck is out of print and it is rare to find.
Okay.
But I am one of the few people who is trying to convey the Sufi worldview using the tarot. And that's actually one of the ways that tarot is used. It is such a universal language because its roots are Pythagoreanism and also Neoplatonism. And in many cultures from China to Iran to Egypt to Italy, France, and England have influenced the structure of tarot and the world around it. So any kind of system can be added to it in a certain way. And we can see it in the hundreds of thousands of tarot decks that exist. Each of them are conveying a worldview, cosmology, religion in a certain way.
Right. Okay, so we will talk more about Sufism later on in our discussion, but if we could perhaps stay with your work with the tarot then. I'm kind of curious then when I was thinking about what I'd like to, talk to you about today and the questions that I'd like to ask you. I know that some people, and I'm just going to ask you what you think, your perspective. I'm really curious to know what your perspective is on tarot, what you think the system is about, how you use it based on these perspectives. But I think in particular, I'd like to know if you adhere to the idea that tarot explains how our life decisions lead us along our own paths of preordained destinies. And I think preordained is kind of the question here. Do you, what are your opinions about that?
That is a beautiful question. That is the $1 million question in general. But my journey with tarot has always been grounded in Jungian psychology and the concept of synchronicity. I come from Iran, and there is this, anti-religion experience that you don't want to adhere to a system. And the Jungian concept of synchronicity is an answer to the question of the desire within us for a divine or an unknown experience, that the universe is somehow connected by a higher power or an ununderstandable power. And my experience with tarot has always been changing and evolving, and I think it's going to evolve until the day that I die. And I think that is the key point for my success, quote unquote, with the tarot, is that I never allow it to rest and be an understanding and this system, that it never changes. I always want it to change. That was a long introduction to my answer, which is I believe tarot is built on a symbolic and archetypal language that out of chance and randomness speaks to 10%, 20%, 30% of the population. It's kind of like astrology. You have the birth charts of many people, and 80% of the people look at the chart and they're like, nah, nothing specific. It's general. I understand. Everybody's like that. But then 20% of the charts aligned weirdly, mysteriously, or as Jung says, in a synchronistic way with their lifestyle. Oh, I'm Cancer and I'm emotional. There are many Cancers that are not emotional at all, but I am. So it's kind of like out of chance that the tarot cards work for me. And that's how I see it, because these cards are gambling cards. They were not meant to bring prosperity and good fortune for everyone, only for some people who the goddess fortune smiles upon them. So to give a short answer and recap, yes, I believe they can align with the lives of certain people and give them guidance in their lives, the same way that for some people going to church is going to give them meaning and understanding. For some people reading a news article or watching Donald Trump or, I don't know, going to the university and studying. Each of us align with a certain perspective to reality. And for some, it is tarot. And I'm here for those people, actually.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to put a pin in the question that just came into my mind. I'll save that for later because I think it has more to do with the categories of readings that you offer. So that would play more into that. So I'll save that one. So I guess the next question that pops up is, in your opinion, then, are these symbols and archetypes always fixed in their meaning, or are they open to interpretation?
Oh, they are constantly reinterpreted by each individual, each person. That's the beauty of the cards for me. is that they are endless. They will always bring new ideas. They will always evolve. They will always change. That's actually one of my criticisms for the Pixie Tarot. Pixie Tarot is my name for the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, because Pamela was not paid well for it. So I want to use the name Pixie for it to remove the penis from it. And my criticism is that the images are really specific. They do not have space for different interpretations so much. They are kind of fixed. For example, in the Tarot de Marseille or the Thoth Tarot, they are abstract and you can project many things onto it. So yes, they are always changing and evolving.
Right. So depending on the deck that you choose to use, that will kind of either limit you or release or remove all these limitations depending on the cards that you're using. Because if I'm understanding correctly, certain decks do have fixed meanings that you're not supposed to deviate from.
Well, not that you're not supposed to deviate from, but rather it is in the end an engagement with images and symbols, especially when you approach the tarot in the current age, which is mostly intuitive, and you engage with the cards and the painting that is made with the 3 or 4 cards that are in front of you. And the older cards, they had the 6 swords, for example, or 5 wands, and there was this King of Cups. And the way that you would make meaning out of them were to understand the symbolism behind them and what their meaning is, and then create the narrative. But now with the onslaught of all of these cards that are made, and they are mostly an artistic expression, when you engage with them, when you try to understand them, you paint the picture. You allow your imagination to be influenced by the cards. And when I look at the texts and the tradition that influence the Pixie Tarot, I see that, for example, the depiction of 3 people on a boat with 6 swords going on a journey is maybe 5% of what the symbolism in the Book T of the Golden Dawn system was trying to say. And Pamela Smith just drew that, which was one strand of this huge meaning. And that's hers, and that's beautiful, and it changed many things. And we will always be grateful for that. However, it might also restrain and keep caged the stories and the ideas that it can come about.
Okay. That's helping me to understand better. Thank you for explaining that. So, as I just mentioned, you offer readings in 3 categories. If you go to your website, you can see that you have tarot readings, Hafez Reading, and Tarot Divination. So I was curious as to the differences, in your opinion, between these 3 types of readings, but we might save the Hafez readings for later on once we talk about Hafez in more detail. But I think when I saw this on your website, I found this to be an interesting distinction, because I think most people would think that tarot is primarily used for divination, but you're putting that in a very specific category. So could you explain why you have made these categories?
At this point in my practice, the majority of the clients that I have are tourists who are walking by in Amsterdam, and they see a tarot reader in a kind of a red light district kind of vibe out of a window.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, I want one. And they come in and they ask how much? And I say, how much do you want? So there is that experience. And when I say tarot reading, that's what I mean. Something that is more of an entertainment for the person. They are not looking to find an answer. They are looking to have an experience of tarot reader.
Okay.
And of course, the one that I do is still profound. It's not like that I just do it for entertainment. I do lure them in with this persona, with this kind of attitude of funness. But then in the reading, they ask a mundane question or a random question, or not having questions at all. And then I transform that into an understanding of themselves so that they can remember it as long as it could be, so that the money that they get is halal, which is good. So it is always dependent. When I say tarot reading, it means that it depends on what your question is. What do you want? I am here for you. But tarot divination is serious. It's important work. We have to look at the astrological timing for it. Find the right time, find the right hour. We have to prepare ourselves. We have to brush our teeth. We have to cleanse the area. We have to do all of the preliminary and the correct rituals beforehand. And the spread that I use, or the method that I use, is called the opening of the key, which is developed most probably by MacGregor Mathers, and it was given to the students of the inner order of the Golden Dawn after they were initiated in a higher degree. And it is a vast, complicated system of looking into the tarot. And I use it for people who are serious and they have an important question. And the question that they have, it's not that it is a big question, as in, am I going to die or not? Or should I have a kid or not? Or should I move or not? No, it is a question that they are emotionally invested in so much. Their heart is connected to this question so much that they're willing to pay 300 euros, 250 euros for a reading. If a person is willing to pay this much, it means that their heart or their psyche or their unconscious, as Jung says, is ready to look into a deeper meaning and understanding of their selves. And the system of the opening of the key tarot spread, which is too complicated, creates a series of synchronicities connected to archetypal elements of different cultures and different approaches to life that can lead into going deeper into the psyche and grabbing some content and information that it would take a therapist, for example, years to understand, or a person years to see. And the opening of the key, it is a complicated and powerful spread, and many people have different approaches to how they use it. But my approach is also with that notion of, let me show you the deeper layer of what this question means in your life and in your soul, so that it brings more meaning for your life, not only the answer of what is right or what should be done.
So you take much more time to do this, I would imagine. It's a real process that you go through. Yeah, okay, right.
Time, and also the investment that the other person is willing to give. Because if you take it lightly, just go watch a movie or ask someone else. Right. This is important. This is serious. I have a radical, intensely serious side of my tarot practice that, not so many people are also willing so much to go there.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people, their approach to tarot is a bit whimsical and, let's just do this at a random moment without, as you said, preparing yourself for this. Say, they just want to do it in a, kind of in a party type situation when you're not really focused, or maybe you've been imbibing a little too much, or, these types of situations.
Yeah.
And
which is amazing. That's what the tarot was made for. That tarot means foolish. It's being goofy and
So it can be used that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's also this serious side to it as well. The same is with the poetry, Sufi poetry, that we will get to.
Okay.
It is the both sides of, how can I be a goofy, serious person at the same time?
A goofy, serious person. I love it. I love that. Goofy, serious person. Because I think that, it is kind of like the essence that we are kind of both things. We can't always be serious and always be goofy, but we're both things. Yeah, right. So just to get into a little bit more detail about this, say I came to you and I had a question ahead of time. And, maybe I should just ask this question first. Do you suggest a category of reading based upon the type of question that the questioner has?
These are really technical questions that any tarot reader have their own different answers towards it. Normally, I do either 3 or 4 card readings for a general question. And for 3, there is this tendency of, when you do 3 cards, there is a pro and a con, and what's going to happen out of these 2 things. Or this is where you're coming from, the past. This is the present, what you need to focus on right now, and the future, what you should look forward to, and these attitudes. But when I do 4 is more like a cycle that keeps happening, like a pattern. So it's like the first one, the second one, the third one, and the 4th one will be the final. And then, but you start all over again, and it keeps happening. And depends on the question that they have, I get a sense of what is it that they're looking for. Are they excited to try something new? They're like, I want this to happen, but I don't know how to do it. And then I go more on the 4-card ones.
Okay.
Because it gives them a structure to build what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when they have some anxieties, in general, there is a sense of, I don't know how it's going to work out, or if this person is going to like me, or what's going to happen. And there is this tendency of, I don't want to know so much, but I want to know a little. That's when I do the 3-card readings to give them open, give them excited to what would happen. And the key thing that is important in all of them is to have a hold of their emotion. It's in your hand, in your words. They see a death card coming up and they go into that anxiety and you have to bring them out. Yeah. You have to tell them, well, I always start with a joke. Oh, you're definitely going to die. I'm sorry. And they're like, what? And with that joke, I bring it out and I'm like, of course you're not going to die. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it depends on the question and on the person.
Right. So the nature of the question then is important. So if I would have a question and say, I'm curious to know if it's a good idea to go down this new career path, as opposed to I'm really uncertain about maybe starting a new spiritual practice, or I'm a little apprehensive about this spiritual path that I'm on, or a magical path. I'm going to be doing initiation soon and I'm feeling a little anxious. Those are very different types of questions. So I thought maybe you would have then, as the reader, like a suggestion of like, well, I think maybe we should do this type of reading based on the type of question that you have, because it could be very mundane questions, but they could also be very deep questions.
Yeah, so there is this rare kind of being a tarot reader, which is just having one method. And then for any question, for any experience, just doing one system of reading, which is powerful. And most of the greatest tarot readers in history had this approach, that they don't jump around with spreads. And if I were to choose that one, would be the opening of the key again. But the first operation of it, which is the 4 elements. So the 4 cards as the 4 elements. And now I was about to open up a really big topic, but I'm just going to move away from it. So the 4 cards represent the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth, which represent the 4 suits of the tarot as well: the wands, the swords, the cups, and the coins or pentacles. And to me, the whole point of doing tarot divination and reading is to understand these 4 suits and these 4 elements and see their reflection in who we are. So what is the 6 of wands for me? What is the 2 of coins for me? What do they mean in my life and how I experience reality? So in a way, I see the opposite of what a normal person expects from a tarot reading, which is look into the cards and tell me what my life is going to be. I'm like, no, I want to look into my life and see how they translate the cards, so I understand myself more, and then I won't need the cards anymore. That is the point of a tarot reading for me. I do readings to try to tell them, listen, you have a tendency, there's a 5 of cups here. You have a tendency to be disappointed about the outcome of it. And the tarot is telling you, don't be disappointed. It's part of life to not get some things or get a different version of it. And help them with understanding these aspects of themselves. So that was a long answer to your question.
I love long answers.
Yes, amazing. We all love long answers. The 4 elements are so abstract and they are so archetypal, understanding these 4 elements and how they represent us, that any question can land on them, and any question can be a window into a version of ourselves or a deeper understanding of who we are.
Okay. I'm learning so much. Thank you for all of this. All right. So let's move now then. I think it would be good to move now to Hafez. You mentioned before that you translate the poetry of Hafez, a Persian Sufi lyric poet and mystic, in a performative way. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. One fun little fact that I found out when I was looking into Hafez's work, because I did not know this person that you were talking about before, is that his epithet is Lisan al-Gaib. And for those Dune fans out there that are listening, this is going to sound familiar. It means, as you pointed out to me, tongue of the arcane. And I always like the fact when something from popular culture can spark interest into something much more complex and meaningful. So I just thought that was so fun to find out that, oh, I know this name and this is an actual person. Oh, this is great. And I want to learn more about this. So just that was my little side tangent. And also for the listeners, yes, this is a great entry point for further learning. So apart from that little side note, I was hoping that you could talk more about Hafez and his body of lyric poetry and why this poet is such an inspiration to you.
So Hafez is a 14th century Persian poet of Shiraz, and he was a court poet, meaning his main occupation was to write serenades for the king and appease the ruler of the town. And he was living in a time when the main way of poetry, or the main form of poetry, was ghazal. And it was kind of inspired by this immense allegorical palette of words and images, which were actually created by the Sufis in a certain way. Because Sufism, for those of you who don't know, is a mystical approach to be united with God in the realm of the Islamic world. And it's complicated to get into it, but in general, mysticism and irfan, as they say, is about having a one-on-one experience with God. But this one-on-one experience is both heretical. You're not allowed to be one with God. That is being an infidel.
Oh, right. Okay.
Or it is also ineffable. You cannot express it. You cannot say, okay, I had this experience. Like I saw God and he had a beard and he was hot. This is not how it works. So they would create this symbolic, allegorical poetry of, I am a lover who is in love with this beautiful beloved, and I'm going to tell her or tell him, oh, your eyes are so amazing, your cheeks are ruby red, and your tress is like a chain that my soul is entangled in, and I want to be free from it. And all of these euphemisms that I said, they have technical meanings. Just like the tarot, when the rose of the fool has a meaning. All of these words in Sufi poetry also had a meaning, which was esoteric and hidden, because it was both ineffable, you could not describe it, and it was also heretical. But when Hafez came to live, he also had an experience with Sufism and in Islam in general. Hafez means a keeper, and it would describe two people. Someone who keeps the Quran in their heart, so they knew Quran by heart and they were a scholar, or someone who keeps in their heart melodies and tunes and was a singer. So when someone said, I'm a Hafez, they would either be a singer or they would be a Quran scholar. And Hafez was both. He was a Quran scholar and he did talk about the Quran. He did study in his youth, but also his work was to go into these king parties, royal parties, and Friday nights, and there were music, wine, dancing, singing, and he would perform his poetry and tell to the king, oh, you're the most amazing, beautiful king ever. Give me money. And the king would be like, okay, that poem was amazing. Here's your money. I said a horrible way of how Hafez was amazing. He was famous when he was alive. That is rare for a Sufi poet to be famous when you're alive. So that is Hafez. And after his death, Hafez was so skillful in creating this allegorical, lyrical, serenade, sonnets of poetry that he became one of the pillars of Iranian poetry and Iranian culture in general. Every Farsi speaker has one book of Hafez in their home, because it was not just that he is good, but he would use many different disciplines, many different visions, many different imagery and topics, so that when you read the poem, you can find something that is about you. You could get an understanding of your soul by looking at this poetry. It is a bit difficult to explain how amazing it is, but we have a history of these incredible experiences with the poetry of Hafez. The first one is that his poetry was about wine drinking and being Sufi, which is heretical. And after his death, they didn't want to, none of the clerics or the Muslim priests, they didn't want to bury him in the land. And they didn't want to pray for his death because they believed him to be a drunk. And what they did was, there were people who were fans of Hafez, and they said, let's pick one of his poems and see what he says about this. And they brought a pile of his poetry. It wasn't compiled into a book yet. They were like scraps of papers. And then they asked for a young boy who is innocent to come and pick one of the poems. And the verse was something along the lines of, don't look at Hafez and his drinking and his heresies. He is on his way to heaven. And when this poem came out, and all of the, they were believers of divination. So when they saw that, they accepted this fact and they allowed Hafez to be buried there. And a similar story has happened over and over again about his tomb. There were other rulers who would come and rule over Shiraz, and they would be like, who is this person here? No, we don't like this. Either because they were too Islamic, or they were not Islamic enough, or they were Sunni, or they were Shia, whatever. There was always a ruler who wanted to destroy the tomb of Hafez. And there was always a book of Hafez poetry on the tomb. And all of the people around the town, in the town, would say, just go and ask Hafez himself what to do. And every time they would open a poem, and there would always be some crazy synchronicities in the poems. Like the name of the king would be in the poem, or the name of it's crazy. And any Iranian has at least one story of a crazy Hafez moment, that they were in a situation, they wanted an answer, and they asked Hafez, and Hafez just gave them like actual fucking crazy exact answer, that this is what you need. And the last one that I'm going to say happened a year ago, actually, on exactly a year ago, when the ruler of Iran, the president of Iran, Raisi, went to see Erdogan, the president of Turkey. And there was a Hafez book there. And he just randomly opened it and was like, oh, look at this verse. It says, rejoice, for the cruel shall never find their way home. And they were like, oh, yes, exactly. This means that the West is going to be destroyed and everything. And then 2 months later, his helicopter crashed and died. And the crazy thing about it is that the other verse of that poem that he didn't read said, the whirling of the sky, the heavenly whirl, is in line with justice. So rejoice, for the cruel shall never find their way home. And the whirling of the sky sounds like helicopter, he was in a helicopter and his helicopter crashed and died. So these kind of crazy synchronicities happen with Hafez a lot. And as a person who is delving into synchronicity and divination, of course, tarot is a powerful tool, but any divination works best and the greatest if your culture is built around that system. So divination with Bible, divination with the Quran, divination with tarot for the English people, for example, always has more meaning and has more power. And that's why divination with Hafez for me is so powerful, because it actually connects me to a deeper layer of the unconscious.
That is an absolutely amazing story. You are just a wealth of knowledge. I am learning so much today. I love this. This is great. Okay, so following up then from the last question, how are you using Hafez then in your tarot readings, in this category of Hafez reading?
So I normally don't use Hafez so much in my readings because people don't know Hafez. However, every once in a while, someone comes to me and they show an interest in, Middle East, in Islam, in Iran, in love in general, in that notion of using love as a spiritual experience. And for them, I offer and I say, maybe I can do a Hafez reading for you. And most of the time they say yes. That is one of the beautiful things. And the way that it works is, as I said, all of the poetry of Hafez is about a beloved that he is serenading. And I tell them, think of the question that you have and let's change that question into a form of a beloved that you want to be united with. And this beloved can have 4 categories. The first one is, it is God or a being beyond this realm, or in general, your spiritual journey. You want to have more meaning and understanding in your life and you want to progress. That beloved. The second kind of beloved is a more of an emotional, personal beloved. You can think romantic love or the love for your mother or a friend, someone that you feel this heart connection with, situationship even. And there is this distance, there is this separation. And you want to remove this separation and remove this distance and be united with them again. The third category of the beloved is someone who there is a kind of a professional platonic relationship with. There is a connection. You are trying to do something, but the connection is more out of respect and mutual understanding of how you can collaborate. The same way that Hafez had a relationship with kings and rulers. He would serenade them, but his serenading was not just about, sucking up to them or something. He also wanted to discreetly criticize them as well. He would say, oh, you are so beautiful. You're so amazing. You are the God on the face of the earth. It would be really bad if such a godly, amazing person gave us high taxes. That kind of way. Like, again, I said it horribly. The way that he talks it's so beautiful. And every ruler that loved Hafez would actually become a more justly king. And that's another topic that we can get into. But the third kind of beloved is this, that you want to have a better relationship with your boss, for example, or your landlord, and Hafez would help you to build that relationship. And lastly, the fourth kind of beloved, which I personally prefer, is yourself in the future, a version of yourself that has gotten that job or has moved to this country or has found the kind of love that they want. And you want to be united with that version of yourself in the future. So they come up with a beloved. They say, okay, this is the kind of beloved that I want. And then we randomly open one page from Hafez and I recite the poem. I translate the poem and explain all of the different intricacies and how Hafez is talking about love and how you should endure this pain of separation so that you can find that resolution and be united with them. And finally, I asked them which of these verses that I translated resonated with you. And they always say this one. And then that is the verse that has the main message for them. And I explain to them the deeper meaning of that verse so that they understand. And the main thing that Hafez is doing for me is that when I do a tarot reading, it's an information that they have, and now they can go in their life and do something with that information. But with a Hafez reading, I'm like, okay, this is your heart in distress. I just cleanse it. It's remove it. You feel alive. You feel heard. You feel understood. And now when that pain is gone, then your whole experience about the situation might be different. You might just let go of that person altogether and be like, that was not a good beloved, or no one knows what's going to happen after it's gone. Yeah. That is the crazy thing.
That is so beautiful. I really like the idea that you're using. It's so layered as well because Hafez poetry has these synchronicities anyway in the legend, as you just explained, of all of these synchronistic circumstances and events, and that you're using that as well for people when they have these questions in their lives about, I guess in this case it would be, how can I become more in balance and in harmony with either yourself, if you're the beloved, if you choose yourself, or with this other, whatever circumstance it is, whatever situation it is. I really like that. That's really nice. I've never heard about anybody doing it in that sense. I mean, I know a lot of people just use the cards, but they're not using other things as well. So this is, yeah, really special.